If we look at the back of the hall, the Vancouver and District Labour Council banner says "Working for Peace and Social Justice." This particular workshop has the title, as Bill said, Trade Unions Struggle for Peace in a War Environment. But a struggle for peace must, of course, also be a struggle for social justice. And the two, in my mind, and I hope in yours, go hand in hand. Bill mentioned that for those of us in North America, we haven't, in our generation at least, experienced a war on our own neighborhoods, our own cities, our own country. It's always somewhere else. It's in someone else's country, neighborhood, cities. It's happening to other people, and it's too easy, particularly the way the media portrays conflicts in a very surreal and in a very staged way, to be alienated from the actual devastation that war on a daily basis takes as its toll on very real people. But if we think about what solidarity means to us internally in the labor movement, it's not hard for us to understand that if we see a government in our own country or our own province or our own state come in with repressive laws that remove the rights of working people, that the natural reaction of other unionized workers is to get very actively involved in support and solidarity, because we know it could just as easily happen to us. That is the kind of internal consciousness to our own countries and movements that we need to globalize, that we need to extend to working people around the world, particularly working people whose home countries are being devastated by war and whose rights are being trampled on by war makers. War devastates workers. There's absolutely no doubt that the human cannon fodder in any war are working class families and working class children. That's who pays the price, and further, we continue to pay a disproportionate price in our living conditions, in the impact on our economies. We heard yesterday how the amount of money that is spent on war efforts by the United States, by Canada, and other nations could go so far for so many decades in bringing social equity, in eliminating hunger, in fighting the war on HIV/AIDS, in bringing social justice, equity, fairness, and decent living conditions to working people everywhere, instead of killing them and destroying their national sovereignty and destroying their communities. In Iraq, yesterday, I was talking to one of our panelists, Abdullah Musin, who told me that on December 6, 2003, as one of the first acts of the United States invasion, 10 armored vehicles shut down the offices of the Iraqi Federation of Trade Unions. We heard yesterday that in Iraq, corporate taxes are being driven down as part of the so-called democratization of Iraq, that privatization is being encouraged, and that an oil law is being brought in to pave the way for 75% of the undeveloped oil, 75% of the oil fields, which are the remaining undeveloped oil fields in Iraq, to be open for international investment and therefore international ownership, removing from the Iraqi people the ability to profit and have a just and equitable society from their own resources. In South Africa, after years of struggle to end apartheid and create a just and democratic state with social equity, we see increasing ownership by private citizens, while the unions struggle and fight against increasing privatization in their own country, and continue to struggle for basic human needs like access to water, access to electricity, access to housing, and of course, access to jobs, as well as medicine and medical treatment to deal with the HIV/AIDS pandemic. In Colombia, where our first speaker today is from, there have been years of armed conflict, with paramilitaries terrorizing and killing families or people who stand up for democracy and social justice in that country. Colombia is the most dangerous place on this planet to be a trade unionist. In 2004, 77 trade unionists were disappeared. 94 were killed. In 2005, 56 trade unionists were disappeared and 70 were killed. And the sad thing is, that's a better record than earlier years. It takes courage to stand up for workers' rights in Colombia, a special kind of courage and a special kind of bravery. There was recently an election in Colombia where Uribe was elected by a huge majority. I couldn't understand that until I was told that the voter turnout was incredibly low. And it was incredibly low because of the fear and intimidation that are visited on Colombian citizens on a daily basis. To vote, to exercise one's democratic franchise in Colombia today is a dangerous act and an act of incredible courage. Let me introduce our first speaker. Patricia Buratica is a commissioner representing civil society on the Reparations and Reconciliation Commission based in Colombia. She was born in Bogota. She has a master's degree in community education. Since 1977, she has actively worked to protect and promote workers' rights within the trade union movement. She was twice elected to the executive board of the CUT, the Workers' Unitary Central. At the CUT, she was deputy director and head of the women's department for 14 years.